Um, we are going to be talking about some tools today. My first tool is UDL Exchange. This UDL stands for Universal Design for Learning, and it's a framework to improve teaching and learning to all people based on scientific insights on how people learn. This tool allows you to browse and build resources, lessons, and collections, and it includes materials like websites and documents, images, presentations, audio, and video. Um, it, the UDL lessons address the variability of all learners through application, and the collections are resources and lessons that are organized around a theme to support UDL. And to use this website, you have to create an account, but it's free, so you don't have to pay for it. And a tool on this website called Recommend allows you to recommend UDL items to other people, like your coworkers or anyone you want to see that you would like to see the lesson that you're doing or a lesson that you found. And I would use this in my classroom for any type of lesson because it allows me to put my ideas into a template, and it allows me to use other resources that other people have used to do a lesson within the classroom.
I think that's a really good idea because, you know, it's always good to collaborate with your coworkers, and the fact that it gives you an actual template to follow, it makes planning a lot easier, and you'll just get your information done and like put together more efficiently. And the fact that you get to, you know, give your own thoughts but still have a structured template makes it an even more effective lesson.
Yeah, and in my field placement, I think this would be great to use because sometimes my mentor teacher is out of town or like has to find a substitute like on the spot. So having these lesson plans like backed up in her files to just pull out whenever she needs a substitute for that day would work because they're already like ready to go and easy to like work with, easy to read. It's, you know, the headings are in bold and it's really easy to like fill in the information and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea because I know also like when you have subplans, you know, it gets a little hectic whenever a substitute's in there because they're off schedule, they're not used to the teacher not being there. And then you also have a substitute who doesn't know particularly each kid personally, but UDL helps kids with, you know, multiple learning, like they're diverse learners, so it helps that substitute teach a lot easier, and the kids are still benefiting from that day the teacher's not there.
Right.
So I actually have a UDL tool as well, and I researched the UDL Book Writer, and this is a tool where you can create, share, publish, and read digital books. And these books help engage and support diverse learners, like I had said before, and that's really great because it makes all types of learners want to read. You can search for books by clicking on the model books or the public library books, and they'll have like a whole selection. You just like fill in keywords or authors or book titles, and then it searches just like you're in a library database. And it's really great because you can create your own books for whatever you need a book for, or you could search for a book for a particular lesson. And I said that I would, you can sign up with the cast and make your own digital books, and you can share them with others. And then it could provide a description of what UDL is and how to incorporate the UDL lessons in your book. So because it does this, as a teacher, if you're having trouble finding a book on all the information, one use that could be done is they can create their own book. That way, if they can't find a book on a particular topic, then they can just do some research and then get the information that they want their students to focus on and make their own book for their students.
I really like that idea. I like the idea of, you know, them making their own narrative, which is like important because it's important for students to express what they think and, you know, their feelings about a book, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. But I also like the idea of using that if like a student finishes their work, they can go online and read books that or is on that tool, and that would be like a good, you know, instructional, like educational way of using up that time if they finish work early.
Yeah, it's actually neat that you say that because, well, one, like, I know in my language arts class right now, we're talking about like making informational books. And so we're trying to figure out ways to create our books in like different formats. So like this is one thing that like even students could do that. Like if they have a cast username and password and account, then they can go on, they can make their own book. But also like, so with this being said, it's not just for teachers, it's for students. And over the past few years in my field placements, I've gotten to see like how dependent kids are with technology because it's part of their like everyday lives. So now with this digital book builder, for like based on UDL terms, students can read and create books online using technology, and it just motivates them that much more to read.
Wow, yeah, I really like that idea. I just like the idea of like they can make their own narrative, where it's like nonfiction, okay, then go ahead and do the research and go ahead and make your own book based on all these nonfiction books that you read in the library or within the classroom. So I really like that idea. My other tool that I did is called Newsela, and this is an innovative way to build reading comprehension with nonfiction reading. And this makes nonfiction relevant, and like the daily news articles can be printed out or used on this website. This tool makes it easy for an entire class to read the same content, but at the different levels of each student, so it will meet the needs of all your students. So if your student is on, you know, like an 800 level, then you can pick that on the article, the different articles. So they'll have the same content, but it'll just be to their level so that they would understand it more. Under the articles heading, there are articles under latest in kids. So any articles that teachers pull up to use in their classroom for kids, those are like all shown there. And there's also different topics to choose from, like war and peace, health, science, kids, arts, law, money. So you can, if you're doing any type of lesson in either like social studies on like what's happening in today, like today's world, you can find articles on that that are like kid friendly to your students. So once you pick a topic, for example, say I picked kids, you can select the grade level and the reading standard that you're doing, and you can also select what language, either Spanish or English. So if you have Spanish speaking kids in your classroom, you could print out a Spanish article and an English article for that same article, and they could, you know, see the differences between the two to learn their English. This allows you to meet the needs of all the students in the classroom, and this tool, you do not need to make an account, or you do need to make an account, but you can be a student, parent, or teacher. So say the student comes home from school and they're telling their parent about the article that they read in class, the parents can pull it up on Newsela if they have an account. So that's really neat. And also underneath the articles, there's a writing prompt. So once the kids read the article, they can complete the writing prompt, and there's also a quiz. So I would use this in my classroom because nonfiction current event pieces are like very important for students to know. I know fiction's always like fun to read, but knowing what's happening in today's world and like knowing factual information is important for students to learn as well. And I can also use this at like my different levels in my classroom.
Yeah, that's a really good idea because like while you were talking about this the whole time, I was just like focused on how like this tool can be used for so much. Like you're talking about different ability levels, and you know, that's a great way. You said you could use it for, you know, as a whole group, you have so many different abilities in your class, but you don't really want to split them up into ability groups because you don't want one kid to feel less than the other. So that's a great way to just like, you're not saying, oh, like blue team, you can only read this, and green team, you can only read that. You have that like leadway, I guess you could say, of, you know, hiding the fact that you're ability grouping without actually grouping kids into separate sections, because they're going to be just reading the articles separately unless they meet with a partner or something. But then again, you could still like say, oh, like everybody has different articles, like just find a partner with your same article, and that could really work.
Right. And in my creative arts class, we actually used this tool. My professor printed out an article about how turtles are suffering from like pollution in the water, and we had to make that into an arts lesson by incorporating drama into it. We all had to act like pollution, and the turtle had to like go through the pollution in the water. So you could also like make it interactive for the students and tie it into other subject areas. So using like nonfiction articles doesn't have to be just for reading language arts. It can be for science, it can be for math, it can be anything that's nonfiction. So I think that's really interesting too.
And I really like that it focuses on nonfiction, because, you know, a lot of kids think that, oh, fiction is the fun one to read, like I only like fiction. But I think we should push more for kids to like nonfiction, because it is so important to know your current events and know about certain animals around you, or certain habitats that you live in, or that the animals that live in the areas you like your home is. So like it just teaches you about the world around you, and it really gets kids involved in their personal lives without even knowing it.
Right, and I feel like nonfiction kids like always think, oh my gosh, that's so hard to read. But like with this being available for different levels, I feel like kids will be more tied into it and like want to read it.
Exactly, yeah. And I like that it also gets the parents involved, because that's a really like key feature in the schools. Like you got to have the parents involved, or else the students won't be motivated.
Right.
I actually did another tool, and it's called the CAS Science Writer, which kind of goes along with nonfiction. It helps students write labs or class reports, and it's usually geared toward middle or high school students. But it breaks down the steps of writing a lab report, and then it makes the students follow the writing process, and it provides checklists, and the students can find sentence starters for if they're drawing a blank, like they just don't know how to start off their report, or like, where do I even begin, like when I'm writing this. So it gives like little sentence starters. And there's a journal that you can have to keep your notes in. And I thought this was like the best feature ever, like a text to speech. So, and they have little animated helpers that will like read to you what the text is saying. And for all this, you need an account, but it's a great way to just, you know, like log in and, you know, keep track of all your schoolwork. And with that being said, with the text to speech, I think it's an awesome tool for ELL students, because science is one of those subjects that there's a big focus on the whole like STEM, this like the STEM movement with like technology and engineering and science and math. You just want the students to be able to understand what you're learning in science, because and if they're ELL, they can't really read as well as your other students. But if they have that text to speech, they're able to do the same thing that your other students are doing, because there is a template for, you know, what to write when. So that makes their writing a lot easier, and they're organizing a lot easier. And then the fact that it's telling you what is being said, that's a great way for students to, you know, be on the same track as others. So I think that's a really good idea.
I really like the text to speech as well. Like even not even for like ELL students, but students who are like under level or like special education students, I feel like that will help them tie in their thoughts, because it's for auditory learners, it's easier to hear what is being written than just to read it. So if they're hearing what they have written, then they'll get their thoughts down and organize it the way that they need to. And the sentence starters, like sometimes I draw a blank on, oh, how do I start this? So I feel like that would be like neat to have in your classroom.
Yeah, and I also thought this would be like, I know in my field placement they have a class set of laptops, but or they don't have a class set, but they have a school set that they can rent out, and then they have a few, like I think they have about 10 laptops, so it's not a full class set, but they still have classroom laptops, and they could do this for their science period. And like, yes, it said that it's directed towards middle and high school students, and mine are elementary, but even then, if you had this in a high school setting or a middle school setting, you could still pull out the laptops and be like, okay, like, let's fill out our lab report, and like, let's take some notes in our journal, and just like, it makes the teacher assured that your students are remaining organized. So I thought this was like a really good idea to have, because then they could even start it in school and then finish their lab report at home, and they don't have to worry if like there's no more excuse, oh well, I forgot my homework in my locker, or I forgot to take my paper home. So it just like avoids excuses, and it also makes it more efficient.
Right, and at that, middle school, high school age, it's like they're not wanting to do the homework, they have less motivation to do it. So I feel that if it's like right there, they don't have to worry about taking anything home, like then they'll be more not motivated, but they'll be like, oh well, it's right here anyway, so let me just do it. And I feel like having started in class and like finishing it at home, I feel that would be a good way to like, okay, I already started it, so might as well finish it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last tool that we have is called Spritz, and this tool is used as a reading technique for students. So when you go to this website, you'll drag like the Spritzlet up into the bookmark bar on your website, and you can use it with any website. So say you pull up CNN and an article will come up. Well, if you press the Spritzlet tab on your bookmark bar, it will read the article to you word by word. So only one word will come up, and one of the letters in the word will be highlighted. And this letter is called the optimal recognition point. So this is the part of a word that all readers notice to make meaning of the word. So this tool allows you to pick the speed of reading. So you can go slower or faster depending on how fast that student reads. And I thought that this tool is efficient because it decreases the time spent in searching for the optimal recognition point in a word. And any learner that has a hard time with reading or doesn't keep up with the rest of the class with reading, I feel that they could they could use this tool easier. And so I thought using this in my classroom at the computers for students that have a hard time reading, that this would show like one word at a time so that they could take it slow or fast, however they want to do it, to really understand what the article or the website is talking about. And you can use it for any website, so it doesn't have to be articles, it can be anything.
Wow, that's really neat, because so I watched this video on a professional development for teaching students with disabilities, and one thing they said was students with disabilities, it takes them a lot longer to process, so that's why they read slower, because they gotta have time to process the words and then comprehend it and then keep on reading. So the fact that you can slow down the speech and have them actually, read to the students in a way that's modified to their learning level will really benefit them in helping them process the information and comprehend it and take their time in doing their work instead of rushing through. Because I see kids rush through their work so many times, and all they care about is getting done, when in all reality they need to focus on slowing down, focusing, and getting their work done correctly.
Right, and in my field placement, their reading books or reading groups are online, or like on the iPads, but they have these points that they can get for how many books they read, and those points go towards the monthly incentive at the end of the month, whether they get to participate or not. And students like go through the book so quickly because they just want to get the points, but then they forget that they have to answer reading comprehension questions. Well, having this tool, word by word would have them remember more of the book than just, flipping through each page, not really reading, just skimming it. So I feel like this would really help those readers who, just want to get it done, but realize, okay, I need to take my time to answer these questions.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that you have to give external tangible motivation for students to want to read, when really we should really instill that I want to read just because it's fun, or I want to read because I'm interested. But since you can't do that all the time because not every child's going to want to read, I think that having this tool will show them the importance of slowing things down, because if they have an example of them rushing through a book and then answering comprehension questions and oh, I don't know the answers because I went too quickly, when they use the tool and they're okay, this is reading a lot slower, I'm, I can really listen and pay attention and know what's being said, and then they get to the comprehension question and they're yes, I got it. So that's a good tool for helping kids really learn the importance of strategically slowing down when reading.
Right, and this is just, one of the many reading techniques used to have students really engaged in the reading, but this is used online because we know that technology is increasing, and books are going to be online all the time now, probably. So having this tool would really help students and their technique on how to read and reading slower and really grasping the meaning of each word. And so yeah. Well, it was great talking with you.
It was great talking with you as well.
I'll see you next time.
See you next time.